Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Today is our second week of this course, and in this course, we will first of all have a brief revision of the previous lecture, and then we will further study about the international law and the structure of international law. So one more thing which is important for today's lecture is to define what is the purpose of our environmental laws. In our last lecture, we tried to understand what are the basic components, what are the basic instruments for implementing our environmental law, and what are the processes, how these are actually being formed, and then how actually these are being implemented. So we will be continuing with the source of environmental law. So what is the source of environmental law? How actually we are obtaining these laws? From where they are coming? What is the origin of these laws? So first of all, we have a process of legislation, we have regulations, we have court decisions, common law, constitutions, international treaties, foreign regulations. So what is legislation? Legislation is actually, it's relevant to environmental statutes which are passed on the federal, state and local levels. So these have to come through our institutions which are like parliament. So we have to follow the process which include a debate, which include the actual documentation of the law. Then it will be presented in the house, and then it will be decided if it needs some alteration or it needs some modifications, and then once it has been improved, it will be unanimously accepted by that legislative council, whether it is parliament or any other council which is responsible for the legislation process. Then we have these regulations which will be actually coming through some institution, and it will be under the umbrella of some of the organizations and agencies which have the authority to develop some rules. So for example, in our country we have the most effective institution for developing these rules and regulations is the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. So that is actually the main source of producing the laws and rules and regulations. So all kind of rules and regulations must come through this organization. So this has the mandate of developing these rules and regulations. Then we have some court decisions. Court decisions are also a form of environmental law in some cases, in which the court has already taken some decision, so that will become a law. So in that case, our court decision will be considered as one of the environmental laws, and it can be referenced for future implementation of that law. So one of it can be explained by giving some examples, like if some of the land use is not according to its previous description. For example, one land is marked as agriculture land, and we are going to use it for some industrial purpose or for some other uh, project which is going to exploit our natural resources. For example, we are going to construct a dam. So in that case, we must have some uh, court decision. So in that case, that decision which is coming from the court will act as a law, and then can be that will have to be implemented. So this is one of the examples. Then we have common law. Common law is again a description of something which is being decided by the court, and in some cases the court is actually going to give a totally new instructions. So for example, it is going to completely change the utilization of a land. It is going to completely decide what is the requirement of the groundwater usage in some of the areas, for example. So in that case, we are going to develop common laws which is coming through the court decisions. So then we have some constitutions which are again under the uh, control of our federal legislative councils or assemblies, which are going to make our constitutions, which are going to approve the constitutions. And we have very strict policies and rules through which they must pass through. So the legislative process is very uh, detailed one, and very uh, complicated as well, because it has so many minute details which must be fulfilled. For example, they need to be assisted from the existing institutions which are related to that. For example, we are developing some legislation about police. Then in that case, the committee which is responsible for making that law, or which is legislation, doing legislation, that must first of all consult all the stakeholders involved in that process, which include the relevant police department, relevant judiciary involvement, and then the administrative section. Some administration offices must give their input, because there must be no contradiction in this law. All the rules must have a straight line of action, rather than being influencing each other. So one department cannot influence the responsibilities of the other office. So in that case, there must be a unanimous decision, and all the stakeholders must come on one decision before it is being presented in the legislative committee which is responsible for making that law. Similarly, we have some international treaties which we are bound to form. So actually, we are presenting the sources of environmental laws. So these are the sources from where we are getting environmental laws. International treaties are very important. We have to abide by all the treaties, being a responsible uh, country of the world. In that case, every duty assigned to us regarding environment must be fulfilled. So most of the treaties are approved and ratified by our country, and is one of the example is Kyoto Protocol. Some other examples are like Agenda 21 and uh, Geneva Convention. These are some other treaties as well. So some uh, political treaties are also involved in it, but presently we are only talking about those treaties which are related to environment. So foreign regulations are also influential sometimes. For example, if we are doing some trade with another country, then the manufacturing process must fulfill the requirements of the country with which we are going to do the trading. So uh, the rules of the other country must be implemented in our country as well, so that our products can be accepted by that country. So then we have some targets of our environmental laws, who or what gets regulated. So products, you know, the most important thing which we are going to develop in our industries must be according to the standards, international standards, and must fulfill the rules and regulations of our country. Then we have pollutants, we have industrial facilities, government agencies, individuals, land uses. So let's have a look in detail regarding these.